Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Bain. The SVSU football team had another game where they battled to the end, but unfortunately came up short in their road trip to Lake Erie. Now the Cardinals return home for the Axe Bowl and homecoming against Northwood. We'll review all of that with their head coach, Jim Collins, and we'll also get an update on men's golf with their head coach, Joe Vogel. That's all ahead on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Bain, joined now by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, probably any time you have a 3-point loss, a lot of things you look back on and say, had this gone a little bit differently, but this loss to Lake Erie, 24-21 on the road, probably had more of those than most.
Exactly, JJ. But I think you pointed out the most glaring thing on the bus ride coming home. We had the ball in the red zone 3 times in that football game where we came away with no points. 2 turnovers were killers, an interception and a fumble. And then we got in there at the end of the game and weren't able to convert the field goal. So those 3 trips down there, to be able to come out of those situations with 0 points, and when you lose by 3, obviously that's what you point to. But there were other plays during the game that you could point to as well. I thought we made some great strides offensively. I thought we really improved in a lot of key areas. But the one thing we talk about all the time is turnovers, and we didn't do a good enough job of protecting the football. And
it is when you're having a season that you're struggling, it seems like all of these things build off of one another, because one of the things SVSU had done a good job of in the previous weeks was you're not turning the ball over, but you couldn't move it. Against Lake Erie, you're able to move the ball, but then you're turning it over, and as you said, twice in the red zone.
Exactly. It's almost as if we focused so hard on the things we needed to improve in, we forgot about the things that we were already doing well. And I don't say that in a joking way. It's, the mentality of our players all week long was we need to do a better job on third downs. We need to make more big plays. We need to possess the ball longer. We achieved all those goals. We had the ball for over 33 minutes. We were 8 of 16 on third down conversions. We had a bunch of big plays, especially in the run game. So those were the positive things that we really needed to focus on. And not that you taking care of the ball for granted, but we just didn't do a good enough job in those clutch situations, and it came back to haunt us.
And obviously you made a switch for this game where you went from Keith Moore, who had been starting the first 6 games, to a pair of freshmen, redshirt freshman Tyler Palka, true freshman and Jordan Martin, and each of them roughly split the snaps.
Exactly. And exactly what you would expect from when you make a move and you put some young guys in. They're going to make their share of mistakes, but what you're looking at is their productivity. And I thought we had good productivity from them. Really, Palka, he had a passing touchdown. He had a bunch of big runs on zone read keeps. I thought he did a good job of when he had to throw the football to the right guy, did a good job of that. Had a couple of drops that really hurt his numbers a little bit. Jordan, on the other hand, played like a true freshman in a lot of ways. He made some mistakes. A couple of the interceptions he threw, he'd love to have back. They weren't necessarily really bad reads or really bad throws. They were just a little bit of both of those that cost him a little bit. But I thought for a freshman, going in his first game, seeing his first true live action, did a great job. Completed some big balls. I thought he did a good job on some zone reads and had some good physical runs when he kept the football.
Then the other part of it is going into Lake Erie, you know that you've got to stop their running back, Anthony Bilal. Easier said than done. He has a big game. From the standpoint, though, where probably 20 of his runs are 3 yards or less. So you bottle him up a number of times, but then in the fourth quarter, they're actually the only score of the second half, he hits you for a 67-yard touchdown.
And that's a great example because we had some guys that were there to make tackles, but not enough guys. Because with him, you need a crowd of people around him because he's that good. And for the most part, all day long, we had a crowd of people around him, and he had a tough time getting started, as you said. 20 of those 30 runs, we bottled them up for loss of yards or very minimal gain. And, in that last run that he had, we had a couple guys that had a shot at him. They missed those tackles. He had great balance, and then with his speed, he was able to outrun us to the end zone.
So how do you go back and assess this game now in terms of what you learned from it? Because we talk about the quarterbacks. There were other guys who, as true freshmen, were seeing their first experience because obviously you've got to turn right around. And not only you're playing your big rival, but you're going from a team that does a lot of things misdirection-wise, and now you're going to have to get ready for the option.
Exactly, and it's, this league is about being ready to play and being at your best week in and week out. We understand that. We've been in the league long enough as a coaching staff to know what you have to do. You go right back to the drawing board in terms of preparing your guys for the next one. Win or lose this past Saturday is not going to have a bearing on what we need to do to beat Northwood. So it's right back to work, JJ, and still emphasizing the fundamental things that you have to do as a defense, as an offense, and as a special teams. And I can really point to a lot of things that we're doing better and getting the improvement with every week. It's not all coming together at once. That's what we need to have happen. That's what you're referring to. With a younger, inexperienced team, you can see progress, but what you really want as a coach is see it all come together at once. And at some point it is. And I told our guys that today after our practice. At some point it is. And that's what we're working for. But, we're going to keep working regardless. The one thing we didn't mention yet, but that was great to see, was the big kickoff return, David Ney. And that's a great example of something that, every single week we've gotten a little bit better, and we've been able to point. Coach Verdrosi, our special teams coordinator, pointing out all these little things that if we do that, if we do this, we're going to hit one for a touchdown. And they all came together on this past Saturday for us.
And that was a play where you could see the wedge setting up, and then he hit it. And then you and I talked about this on the bus ride home as well. David Ney is one of those guys, he's deceptively fast. He doesn't look like he's running that fast, but once he gets into the open field, nobody ever seems to catch him.
Absolutely. He reminds me a lot of Brandon Emiot, who played for us back in 2008, JJ, a guy that, doesn't come across as, a wow factor like a Jeff Janis did when you saw him run with the football. But David's got that deceptive speed, and he also has the ability in the open field to accelerate. And, everybody's faster when they're getting chased too, JJ. And I thought he did a great job of, he bent it back to the middle, set up his blocks, got back outside, and then he saw that goal line, and I don't think anyone was going to catch him because of his determination.
And so, again, that's another one of those things, a bright spot. There's been so many bright spots, you'd think that it would lead to something that's a little bit better than where your record is right now. But at this point, all you can do is keep working for the final 4 games, starting with Northwood. Absolutely,
JJ. And we can't be defined by our record. We've got to be defined by the way we're working every day, the character and the integrity that we're showing. And once again, as I said, you're seeing enough progress to where you've got something there. It's just got to come together. And we'd all like to see it come together this week, and that's what we're working for.
And for SVSU, that will be their next matchup, the Northwood Timberwolves. We'll preview that one a little bit later on in the program. But when we come back, I'll be joined by SVSU defensive backs coach Jamal Brown. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Kelsey Furla. Furla, a senior on the SVSU volleyball team, played well for the Cardinals at the GLIAC GLVC Crossover Challenge this past weekend. Furla played well offensively and defensively for SVSU in 3 matchups in the challenge. On Friday, 10-17, she posted a season-high 20 kills, adding 15 digs and 4 blocks against Wisconsin Parkside. She followed up her performance on Friday with another impressive showing in Game 1 on Saturday, 10-18, against Rockhurst. The senior tallied a career-high 24 kills with 7 digs and 2 blocks. In Game 2, she had 13 kills and 3 blocks in a victory over Missouri S&T. The Cardinals return to action this weekend with a pair of home GLIAC matchups. On Friday, 10-24, SVSU hosts Lake Superior State at 7 p.m. in the Cardinal Gym. The Lady Cards will then square off against rival Northwood on Saturday, 10-25 at 2 p.m. in a homecoming contest. Kelsey Furla, your Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU defensive backs coach Jamal Brown. And Jamal, first of all, for your position group, how do you assess the play of your guys now more than halfway through the season? Because we thought it was going to be a position of depth coming into the season. You've definitely gotten a lot of guys that have gotten a lot of meaningful snaps.
Well, as we've gone through the season, like I said, we started off the season with a lot of guys getting reps. And as we began to get, as you said, more than halfway through the season, we've identified our guys who are our main guys who are out there, who are making plays, who are playing a significant amount of snaps. We had a few guys who weren't with us earlier in the season who are, with us now, who are stepping up and playing big for us.
And one of those guys who I know missed some games earlier in the year, but who played well, I thought, on Saturday was David Toussaint, where he came up, had a big interception, had some big plays in the run game.
Yeah, David, he's been great since he's been back. He's been a little bit banged up, but he's doing really good for us. Not only this week did he have a good game, but a week ago he also had a good game, had a huge interception. He played it perfect. So David has really taken a leadership role, and has really stepped up as a leader in that secondary, and has, been wanting to be the one to make the play.
And how do you go through that assessment process, as you talked about? Some of the guys that were playing more early in the year aren't playing as much now, and vice versa. What are you looking for in terms of whether you're a corner, whether you're a safety, in terms of what you need to see from them in order for them to be the guys that you're counting on?
Well, the main thing you look for is consistency. Guys that can go out there and execute consistently. And it's not always about the guys who make the most plays, but I'm looking for someone who can make plays but also can execute the game plan. If you don't know what you're doing, then you decrease your chances of getting on the field. So the guys that we have out there have shown the ability to be consistent in the level of production, but then also with the understanding of the defense.
Now you go from what you've been seeing previously this season. I mean, there's some different option looks that you've seen, but now you're going to see more of a traditional option for Northwood. What kind of a pressure does that place on a defensive back to play a team like that?
Well, you just have to always be on your P's and Q's. You have to always stay alert. Sometimes when you play these option teams, especially out at corner, you don't get a lot of balls thrown your way. So you have to really stay awake, because the moment you go to sleep is when they hit you with a play action pass over the top. So you have to be alert for that, but then you also have to understand that there may be times where you have to be aggressive. You may have to fit in the run game, which is something that our corners haven't really had to do a lot of the past few weeks.
And obviously for you, being new to the SVSU program, this is your first Axe Bowl, but I presume you've gotten a quick introduction to what it's all about.
Yeah, I got a quick introduction over the weekend from the coaching staff, and then also I took time this morning in my position meetings, and I gave my players the floor to kind of explain to me what this game meant to them. And just from being a part of that, it means a lot. This is a very big game. There's a lot of history involved in this game, and my players let that be known. And, I have a really good understanding of what they feel and what this game means to them.
And what do you do to get them ready now for Saturday in terms of, it's a big game, so you're going to have a lot of emotion, but at the same time you have to be especially disciplined.
Well, that was another thing that I shared with them this morning. With as big as this game is, with it being homecoming, it being the Axe Bowl, as big as this rivalry is, you're going to have a lot of emotions are going to be flowing. You're going to, but you can't let that affect your preparation. You still have to prepare the same that we've been preparing. In some sense, you have to prepare even harder, but you can't let those emotions take you out of what you do, take you out of your element in terms of preparing and coming Saturday ready to play.
Well, hopefully they do come ready to play this Saturday against Northwood. Jamal, thanks for joining us, and good luck.
All right, thanks, JJ.
And when we come back, I'll be joined by SVSU golf coach Joe Vogel. That's next on SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined now by SVSU golf coach Joe Vogel. And Joe, team's wrapped up for the fall, but definitely some bright spots in the way that your team was able to go out and compete during this fall season.
Yeah, in fact, we were kind of stuck on fourth place there through the first three tournaments, and then got off that fourth place and ended up finishing sixth in the conference championship, which is a story in itself. But all in all, we had a pretty successful fall campaign where right now we sit 5th in the region, and what you want to do is be in the top 10 when the dust settles on the spring part of the season to make it to the Super Regionals.
Now, obviously, you were able to do that last year and perform very well in the Super Regional, but staying with this year, obviously, the NCAA Regional, which I think 35, 36 team field, something like that, is where that's one of your 4th place finishes.
Yeah, that actually was a nice 4th place finish there when there's actually 34 teams in that tournament, 36 holes, and I have to say our guys performed extremely well over the last 4 holes, which were 4 of the toughest holes on the golf course, and 3 of them were playing into the wind. And we ended up as a team finishing 2 under par. So that was one of those tournaments where we finished strong, similar to, you mentioned the Super Regional last year. We finished extremely strong in that final round of that tournament, which then got us to the Nationals. But this tournament down in Chicago, that Super Regional, when the guys finished the tournament the way you as a coach would I don't want to say expect, but at least hope is the common thing that happens. Anyway, you just feel good that you've got your team going in the right direction.
Obviously, you've got some key returners from that team who made it to the NCAA Nationals last year. How much did that experience help them, and how have they been able to carry that into this fall season?
Well, I think it has an awful lot to do with what they've had as far as past experiences, and knowing that if the tournament's on the line or the last few holes are tough holes, and weather conditions are such, they just know how to reach down and believe in themselves and have that level of confidence because they've done it before. So, it's a matter of calling upon those thoughts and those memories.
And you mentioned your 6th place finish at the conference tournament, and I know it's one of those where, on the one hand, you're disappointed, on the other hand, you're shaking your head a little bit.
Well, yeah, when you say you finished tied for 6th in the conference championship, now there's 15 teams that we're competing against in 54 holes. The hardest thing for me to take from that is that the score that we had, the 875, is our 3rd lowest scoring for that tournament in the history of our golf program, which would lead one to think that maybe you should be winning the tournament. And in this case, we were seven shots out of 2nd place, which when you equate that over 54 holes, 4 rounds a day, blah, 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 it's only a half a shot a man. So there's some missed shots or maybe some few missed putts here and there that if they'd gone the other way, we could have been a lot up the ladder, so to speak, in our place in the finish. But the one thing that I really liked, and I emphasized this in a fundraiser that we had yesterday with the guys, and that is we shot 286 the last day. That's 2 under par. And even though we didn't move up at all in our position as far as finish, we started the day at 6, shoot 286, and stayed at 6th. That's a good way to finish the season, the fall portion of it, though. I mean, we obviously feel pretty good about ourselves walking off the golf course, knowing that we did just about what we think that we could do, and still wasn't enough, but yet still there's some positive there.
And you talk about it in terms of how your fall win, it's kind of how college golf seems to be going too, in terms of the standpoint that, you can't afford to have that one bad stroke over the course of your 3 days, because it can really come back to haunt you because the scores are so tightly bunched.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there was one hole on the 2nd day where it was playing a little bit into us, and normally it's about a wedge for a 2nd shot's par 4, and we ended up 2 of our guys, actually 3 of our guys that counted that day, 2 of them double bogeyed it and another guy bogeyed it. Now on the day, and you get stats all the time from the golf stat, so it gives you all of the different scores on any given hole. Well, on that hole there was only 3 double bogeys made all day, and we had 2 of them. So it's almost like, well, there's 5 shots right there out of, again, I'm talking about 7 shots getting to 2nd place. So yeah, 1 hole, 1 day, that's how it is. Yeah, you just can't afford to make even a little slip up. So,
well, hopefully no more slip ups come springtime, and you guys are able to repeat your performance of a year ago and back to the NCAA tournament.
Well, thank you, JJ. We feel we're in a pretty good spot to do that.
Well, we wish you luck in that quest. Keep working on your game over the winter time, and good luck to you in the spring. And when we come back, I'll be rejoined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week is Jordan Kalk. Kalk, a sophomore on the men's soccer team, helped the Cardinals remain in a tie for first place in the conference following a 4-1 victory over the Ohio Dominican Panthers. Kalk scored 2 goals against the Panthers on Sunday, 10-19. The sophomore is tied for the team lead with 5 goals this season. He has recorded 2 assists this year as well for the Cards. The Cardinals return to action this weekend at Braddock Field when they host University of Findlay on Friday, 10-24, and Tiffin University on Sunday, 10-26. The match on Friday is scheduled to start at 2 p.m., while the big conference matchup on Sunday is slated to start at 12 p.m. Saginaw Valley is tied with Tiffin atop the GLIAC standings with only 3 games remaining on the schedule. Jordan Kalk, your Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Bamery, joined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, I guess if there's one thing about coming off a tough loss like you had against Lake Erie is that if you have a rivalry game, everybody forgets about it pretty quickly.
Absolutely, JJ. And, you know, we were pretty down that locker room after the game, obviously, to lose the way we did and to work so hard and not to see it come through in a victory. But all I had to say was Axe Bowl. And it got our guys focused on what they're working for. And, you know, when we got off the bus, I was in the locker room after we got back, our locker room here, and you could see it in everyone's eyes. They had not necessarily forgotten about Lake Erie, but understood that the focus at this point needs to be on Northwood, on the Axe, and doing the things it's going to take to win that football game.
And Northwood has been on the winning side of some of the close games. Again, so many close games in this league. We've talked about it for years, but they had another one this past Saturday winning, I think by 2 points was the final, 35-33 over Findlay.
And that's one of those games where Findlay missed an extra point and then has a chance to tie at the end and misses the 2-point conversion. And, you know, you got to give Northwood credit. I think, you know, in this league, that's what you've got to be able to do. You've got to minimize mistakes enough to win close games. We haven't done a good enough job of it. They've obviously done a pretty good job of it, and especially this past weekend. But once again, when you look at this rivalry, this game, it doesn't matter the records or, you know, what happened the year before. It's a brand new game. Everybody wants it real bad, and that Axe stands for something.
And I know that obviously will get guys very energized and very fired up. What do you do as a coach, particularly with all these guys who are going to be playing in their first Axe Bowl, because there's going to be quite a few of them?
You know, I mean, that's a great point. Number one, it's good to be at home for it. You know, I think always being in the comforts of your home with your fans supporting you, it's going to be homecoming. It's going to be a great environment. So our guys are going to know the fans are on their side. That's I think, the most important thing. And that just goes back to preparation. You become a confident football team on Saturday because of the preparation you do building up to it. So the studying of the film, having great practices, the effort that goes into it, and then once again the trusting in each other that you're going to play for your teammate and get the job done.
And with Northwood making a coaching change back to Pat Rietma, who went down from the AD's box back to the coaching sideline, someone I know you've known for a long time, but he's also brought back the Woodbone, so I know that's something that you've got to be prepared for defensively.
Well, anytime you're going to play option teams, there's a lot of responsibility as a defensive team that goes along with it. You've got to have someone there to take the dive, to take the quarterback, to take the pitch guy. And good option teams are going to confuse you. They're going to run a little misdirection. They're going to try to get you out of your, take you out of your discipline with the play action pass, mixing up blocking assignments in terms of the guy that you think's going to be unblocked and has the quarterback. Now he's getting blocked and someone else is going to have to compensate. So there's a lot of good things that go into option football that as a defensive group, you've got to be prepared for, you've got to be disciplined for, and ready to react to.
And for SVSU offensively, obviously, need to see if you can execute a little bit better, particularly in the red zone.
Absolutely, JJ. You know, once again, we haven't had enough opportunities in the red zone, and that's hurt us. And then when you get down there, you've got to make the most of them. We didn't do a good enough job of that Saturday. So once again, it's going to be a point of emphasis like it is every week. We talked a little bit about it on the bus. We spend a lot of time in the red zone and goal line in practice and in meetings. And until you get the live bullets in the real game, you know, you're not quite ready for it maybe, but the bottom line is we're going to keep preparing, keep working, and keep stressing to our players that, you know, they've got to stay the course. They've got to stay the course because the improvements we've seen have been good enough to prove that, you know, what we're doing is working. It's going to work a little bit better every time as long as we keep working and stay the course.
Hopefully you stay the course, and hopefully that axe handle remains painted red as the Cardinals take on the Timberwolves. Coach Collins, good luck.
Thanks, JJ.
And that is SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. I'm JJ Bain. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.